Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing limerence and how to stop obsessing about your ex. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing limerence and how to stop obsessing about your ex. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you will likely be experiencing limerence. Now, although limerence isn't purely connected to breakups, I will be focusing on this connection today. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 points to consider regarding limerence and how to stop obsessing about your ex. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is early stages of limerence. So like I said, I'm going to be concentrating today on the connection of limerence and breakups, limerence and obsessions that dumpees often feel towards their ex, the dumper. So when we consider point number 1, the early stages of limerence, we have to consider the likely feelings that a dumpee will feel if and when the breakup occurs. So when a breakup takes place, unfortunately, one person becomes the dumpee. They were dumped. And when somebody is dumped, we have a situation where they feel rejected. And rejection breeds obsession. So one of the experiences that dumpees are likely to feel regarding the obsession concept is infatuation. And infatuation is a key ingredient of limerence. If somebody was to ask me what is limerence, I would say in essence, it is infatuation towards a person. Again, like I've said, we're concentrating on breakups in today's podcast. So regarding a breakup, we're looking at the dumpee. They have been dumped. The decision they didn't want to take place has happened. The breakup's been finalized. They feel rejected. Rejection breeds obsession. Rejection breeds limerence, you could say. So the infatuation is going into overdrive. Somebody who has just been dumped is likely to think of their ex-dumper 24/7. They will start to feel that their ex-dumper is flawless. They're perfect. A dumpee will be pushing their dumper onto that pedestal. A dumpee will be believing that the dumper is the answer to all of their problems. Whether a dumpee has problems regarding their personal life, their work life, their friendships, their experiences as a whole in life, everything in their mind can be answered by the dumper right now. So the dumpee is thinking, whatever is going off in my life, everything can be solved by my ex-dumper. That is why a dumpee will obsess about their ex, thinking of them 24/7, when they are awake, when they are asleep. Now, this isn't just something which somebody will think in their mindset. Limerence can also explain the physical feelings that people will have going through a breakup. You know, you might be a dumpee and saying, look, I physically feel the pain. You know, it's not just me imagining it. It's not just me thinking it. It's not just my mindset. I can physically feel pain. Again, this can be linked to the concept of limerence and the early stages of limerence, where somebody is obsessing. They are believing that their ex is the one, the only, the person that can solve all of their problems. They are a flawless, unbelievable, unique person who nobody else can compete with. A dumpee will often believe that they can never find better. And there is nobody better. There is nobody better than the person that has dumped them. So as you can see, a dumpee going through the grind, going through the early stages of limerence, is fully focused on their ex-dumper. And I'm going to be explaining as we move through today's podcast how a dumpee can reduce those feelings of obsession towards their dumper. So it's so important. If you're feeling these feelings, if you're going through the grind, please keep listening as I explain to you what you can do to reduce those thoughts. So if you're new to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. Please ring the bell for notifications. Let me know in the YouTube comments how you're feeling about today's video and whether you believe you are experiencing limerence. But as we move forward, like I've said, I'm going to be explaining to you what you can do to try to reduce that obsession that you're feeling towards your ex, because whether you want to try to get them back, whether you want to move forward, obsessing about them isn't going to help you. It's not going to help you despite how much you feel that it might right now. Honestly, look, you're listening to today's podcast, so you know this isn't quite right. You know this isn't probably what you should be experiencing. And you're correct. If you want to get them back, you need to stop obsessing. If you want to move forward and find somebody even better, you need to stop obsessing. But right now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, there is nobody better. I just want my ex. You can and will find somebody even better, even if you don't reconnect. So please don't feel fearful. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about limerence and how to stop obsessing about your ex. And point number 2 is end stages of limerence. So once we move through limerence, you will get to the end stages, which is the realization that you might not actually get your ex back. Now, although you might think, well, that is a good thing, you need to have that realization that you might not be able to reconnect, but you'll be absolutely fine either way. Unfortunately, people going through limerence are unlikely to have that element of thinking that they can find somebody better. Somebody going through limerence is instead likely to feel a tremendous sense of loss. So although they might have a realization that they might not actually be able to get their ex back, instead of feeling positive and believing that they can find somebody even better, they are more likely to feel a drop in feeling even further, a tremendous sense of loss, and the feeling that nothing positive is probably ever going to happen to them again. Now, of course, this is faulty thinking, but it doesn't mean that it's not what lots of people are going through. And that's why it's so important that you get support. Whether you speak to your friends, your family, a local doctor, a local counsellor, or maybe you want to consider speaking with me one-on-one, you need to get the support to help you get through this. Because look, these feelings are temporary, but they are very real. And you shouldn't be going on this journey alone. Please speak to somebody. Now, if you would like to speak with me, whether this is regarding limerence, whether this is regarding breakups in general, trying to get an ex back, trying to find a new, even better partner, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where you can speak one-on-one about your specific, unique circumstances. Go to my website, www.dateme.tips, for more details about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. So like I said in point number 2, we are focusing on the end stages of limerence. So in point number 1, there is that infatuation, there is that feeling and thought of a dumpee thinking of their ex 24/7. But at that point in time, they believe that they can get their ex back. They believe that if they chase their ex, if they text their ex, if they call their ex, if they do anything they can to prove to their ex that they are the right option, this is what they're focusing on. A dumpee in stage 1, in the early stages of limerence, is genuinely believing that they can get their ex back. Whereas in point number 2, this is when it is almost that crushing feeling of, you know what, I probably can't get them back. I might not get them back. They're never coming back. But instead of thinking positively, instead of thinking, well, there are plenty more fish in the sea, instead of thinking, I can find somebody even better, I can find somebody who isn't going to dump me, instead of thinking these thoughts, a dumpee is likely to be into a new, unfortunate level of despair, falling further and further. These are the end stages of limerence, the feeling, the realization that you might not get your ex back, that nothing is likely to happen, but it is a tremendous sense of loss without any real hope of what might come next. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about limerence and how to stop obsessing about your ex. And point number 3 is how to stop obsessing. So like I said earlier on, at the end of today's podcast, I was going to get into the point about how you can reduce those feelings of obsession. So this is so important when you're going through the grind, when you're experiencing limerence. you need to stop obsessing about your ex. It's not going to help you. Like I said, if you want to get them back, if you want to move forward with your life, obsessing is not going to help. So what I would suggest you do is to fill the gaps. Now, when I say fill the gaps, I mean this on two different fronts. Firstly, I mean you need to fill the physical gaps. If you lived with your ex, or even if you didn't, you're likely to have possessions of your ex in your house. Now, these need to be removed because if and when you see them, which is going to be every single day, you're going to be thinking of your ex, it's going to be triggering for you, it's going to be really leading to extra obsession. So, what do you do with these physical items? Well, some people say to me, well, I want to throw them away. No, I don't think that's a good idea. Don't do rash decisions. Don't make choices which you may regret in the future. Don't do these things when you're going through the grind. Instead, pick up all of these possessions, these items, the things which remind you of your ex, not just their actual items, but things that just might remind you of them. Put them in a box and keep the box somewhere safe. Now, in the months or years to come, you can make the decision about what you want to do with these items. But right now, keep them somewhere safe because you might get back together. Maybe your ex will reach out to you and ask for them back. Maybe you will meet again. If this happens, then you certainly don't want to say to your ex, look, I can't give you your items back because I threw them all away or I burnt them. That is not going to help you. I would say put them in a box, keep them somewhere safe, but make sure they are out of view. It's so important that they are out of sight. You do not want to be triggered every single day, but they need to be somewhere safe that if you do need them, you can get to them. Now you have an extra challenge though. You've removed the items from view and now there are actual physical gaps. So there was a physical item which you have removed and now there is a physical gap. So what are you going to do? You need to put something in that place because if you see the gap on the wall or on the shelf, again, you're going to be thinking of your ex. It's the same problem. So you need to replace these physical items with physical items which don't make you think of your ex. Maybe a photo of you and your family, you and your friends. Maybe an item which is yours but nothing to do with your ex. Make sure you remove these items but then replace them with different ones which don't make you think of your ex. So now we've spoke about the physical, we need to speak about the second element of when I was talking about how to stop obsessing about your ex. And the second thing that we need to fill is time. Time that you spent with your ex, whether this was in person, whether this was on the phone, whatever it may have been, you obviously spent a lot of time with your ex. And therefore, we need to fill these time gaps. If you don't fill the time gaps, once again, you're going to be thinking of your ex. You're going to be thinking, well, I'm bored now. What should I be doing? Oh, I used to be with my ex. That's the trigger. You think of them. The obsession comes again. So you need to be filling time gaps by doing things not connected to your ex. Don't do an activity that you used to do with your ex. Again, it's going to make you think of them. It's going to make you think, well, I used to do this with them and now I'm alone. So these need to be new activities, ideally. New activities that you are spending time with new people. Joining new classes, groups and clubs is a great way to fill your time in the situation. However, there are other things you can do. Spend time with your friends. Spend time with your family. Watch some movies. Learn a new skill. You don't even have to join a new class group or club. You can learn things online. Do things which take up your time in a positive way. Whether you are learning, whether you are improving, whether you are socializing, these are all important things you can be doing which will help fill that time gap, which otherwise you would just be thinking of your ex. You'd be thinking, well, I'm alone now, but normally I'd be speaking to my ex. I'd be with them right now. This is not going to help you if you don't fill those gaps because you are going to be thinking of them. It's a trigger and the obsession comes again. Always remember, fill the physical and time gaps in your life to help you reduce the obsession that you feel towards your ex. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.